This week on Voices of Valor, I sat down with a retired Army veteran who spent 30 years in service working as a medic, Ranger Battalion, and so much more. Here's Norbert Miller's story. All right, Mr. Funboy.
Yes.
Tell me about your upbringing.
My upbringing? I was very blessed. My dad was in the Army for 21 years, so I was blessed to travel all over the world. You know, we were in Germany and different other places that we had the opportunity. So my upbringing was in the military. And I think that's when I started feeling the military in my blood. And the upbringing, probably like most people, you know, mom and dad did their best to raise what I think I was kind of an introvert, believe it or not. But then somewhere along the 9th and 10th grade, I got out of this shell, and I wanted to be funny, and I wanted to make people laugh, and that was pretty cool. But I didn't study. High school was not. It was more fun to me than actual learning, and that in later years proved to be not a good thing to do. I would advise anybody right now that's in high school, study hard, learn, and take it serious, because only then you'll be successful. Which I was successful. I didn't have, I had a high school diploma. But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, it's. I don't want to go too deep, you know.
You can if you want to.
Well, okay. Wow, Jesus. It was an alcoholic home, and it was a difficult home, and it was difficult at times. My mom and dad loved us kids. There was 4 of us, and that alcohol thing got in the way. And then I became an alcoholic at a very young age, and that was difficult.
So you think the military kind of straightened you out? Because you said you started drinking at a very young age. So you think the military straightened you out?
Yes. I do want to say something, too, and I just thought about this. I want people to know that right now, God is number one, is in my heart, and that's how I walk. Everything I do is for the glory of God, 2 Corinthians 10:31. And that's how I live. I think that's how I met you. You know, I felt God brought us together, you and Michelle. So I want that. And then the second thing, and the reason I'm telling you this is because as I go into my story, I don't want this all to be about me, but it's about my family and my friends as well. So God, family, and friends, I love them. And then lastly is the people I served with and that I served with in the armed forces and that are now serving. My love goes out to those 3. That's what I walk, that's how I talk, and that's what I want to be. The question you asked me, did the military straighten me up? No. I went in 1974. I was 17 years old, and I'm considered a Vietnam veteran era. And I want to make that, that means I wasn't in country, but I served at the time of war. But I didn't go to country. But when I went in 74, my leaders were all Vietnam vets. Very difficult time. At 10 o'clock in the morning, we'd go out at the snack bar. Back then you could drink 2 beers a day in the military. And I was with my platoon sergeant, we'd have a couple more than 2, and we'd go back and then the drug people, who was smoking their pot, they go up behind the motor pool. So we were in there at the snack bar drinking in there. But that, as the Army went on, it got better. I mean, it's a lot better now today. People hearing this story is going to say, what? They did that? And so 74 to 77, I continued to drink. I was a heckin', I want to say, can I say hellion? Hellion. I want to say, so for those 3 years, I was drinking and whatever. Then I got out. And then 2.5 years, and this is where I got straightened up. I ended up working for a guy, his name was Carol Boggs, and he was a golf professional. And I caddied for 4 years. And then when I got out of the Army, I caddied from 14 to 17. Then I went in the Army, and then when I got out, I didn't have a job. So I went to Mr. Carol Boggs. Just love this guy. A little 5'2", but respected him, and everybody respected him. When he come up, you know, you stood up, you looked him in the eye, you said yes sir, no sir, and I felt like I was back in the military type thing. But towards the end there, he asked me, about 2.5 years I was out, he asked me, he said, Norbert, why did you get out of the Army? And I said, sir, poor leadership. And I didn't understand that when I said that, but he kind of clarified. He said, what do you mean poor leadership? And then I explained to him that, you know, the leaders were, you know, we drank a lot and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, I'm just, that was such a good thing, because what he said to me, he says, Norbert, do you think you can make a positive difference in the area that you're in? And I looked at that and I thought about that, and for a couple of days, you know, I thought, wow, what's that mean? I joined the Army a month later, rejoined, went back in 1979 to be a Special Forces Beret carrying dude, and I was pretty excited, and that's my whole career, is making a positive difference no matter where I was. I can't influence, you know, too wide, but where I'm at, I can, and that's what I did, based on Mr. Carol Boggs. The other thing I want to share with you that I carry along is Coach Latimer. When I was 16 years old in high school, I was committed to run track. He came over to the cross-country team and said, if you're going to run track, we'll give you study hall, and then when track season starts, you'll run track. Well, when track season came, I didn't run track. I decided to, I was working, making money, and I thought that was more important at the time. And Coach Latimer found out second day of track season. He said, where's Norbert? I was in study hall. Some kid came up and got me and said, hey, Coach Latimer wants to see you on the field. I went down on the field. There's 50 to 70 people stretching and exercising. And I got right up to him, and I looked him in the eye, and then the next probably 5 minutes, he was saying things that I've never heard before, yelling at me, calling me a quitter, a loser, blah, blah, and it just went on that. I tried to hold my tears back. I'm sure I did tear up a little bit, you know, 16 years in front of all these kids, and I left. That night, you know, I felt God come in and say, call him. So I called Coach Latimer at home and asked him if I could be on the track team, and I went back. And the moral of both of those stories, that's what I live on. Don't quit, and make a positive difference wherever you go and whatever you do. That's it.
So you went back in and you stayed in for how long?
I was in for 30 years.
Okay.
I went in 27 more years. There's nothing like the military. I don't care what service you're in. You know, we always tease and joke, you know, but I chose the Army. But we're all great services, and I was very fortunate and blessed. Here's a good point. What happened was I wanted to be a Green Beret Special Forces guy. I ended up in the National Guard just before I went in, and Mr. Boggs saying what he said. So that's what I went in. But they told me I was an engineer in the Army the first 3 years. I wanted to be Special Forces. I wanted to wear that Green Beret. I was wearing it, but not with the flash. And the recruiter said, well, we can only get you in as a medic right now. You have to wait a year to be an engineer. Well, I didn't want to wait a year. I was drinking, I was a drunk, and I know I needed this change. And I signed up as a medic. And I believe, again, the Lord put his hand on me on that, because I really had no endeavor, no thought to be a medic. I went in, and this is where school is so important and education is so important. I went through the physical part, I did really good. Phase 1, Camp McCall, Fort Bragg, I did well. But when I got to Phase 2, back then it was 300F, and that's the mental part of being a medic for Special Forces. They are phenomenal medics, the Special Forces medics. And I went to this school called 300F, and it's 13 weeks. Well, I continued to drink and not studying like I should have studied, and I ended up failing. I ended up getting kicked out. I'm going to say kicked out, but failed. They ended up sending me back to Fort Bragg. And then when I was at Fort Bragg, they were going to send me to Fort Polk, Louisiana as a medic in the Army. the big army, we like to call it. Some guy told me about the Ranger Battalion. So the Ranger Battalion up at Fort Lewis, Washington. So I called and I talked to a guy named Captain Garner, Dr. Garner, the surgeon, and also the platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Jimmy Bynum. And I talked to him for about 10 minutes. They did a little interview and they said, hold on. They made a call to DA back 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. He says, you got orders to the Ranger Battalion. The best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, that was phenomenal because the 4 years I spent in the Ranger Battalion, you just can't explain it. The brotherhood, the drive. And one of the things I want to share with you now is I like to say, hooah! I went to a Ranger Battalion and people were running around yelling, hooah! And I'm from Maryland, a little western part of Maryland. I didn't know what hooah was, and the rest of the Army I never knew. I never heard that. So I went up to a sergeant. I said, Sergeant, what is this hooah? What does hooah mean? And he looks at me. There's several definitions, but his definition's the best. It means anything but no. So you tell me to drive and jump a concertina 4 feet high, I'm going to say hooah, and I'm going to try to jump that concertina wire 4 feet high. Anyway, I wanted to share that because I do like to say hooah. The rest of the Army got into that later on.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So you said that you like to be positive everywhere you go.
Yes.
What did you do in your 30 years in the military that was so positive when you were in service?
I think the love word, the soldiers that I served with, the leaders that I served with, absolutely all were on the same mission, eyesight. So I think the positive thing was loving something you love to do. You're going to be positive, and you're going to do positive things, and you're going to help. The more as you get up in a leader, you're going to help soldiers become better and progress. And that was my life. That was my whole entire being for 30 years. Is, you know, I see a young 18, 19-year-old coming in, and then even the sergeants and the staff sergeants. Once you get up to sergeant first class, first sergeant E6, E7, E8, you still can make a difference in their life. But it's those young people coming in that you really want to lay that positive thing out so they can grow and progress and make a positive difference in their world. And so that's that.
And take me through a timeline of what you were actually doing when you were in service. You say you were an engineer. What else did you do?
Well, I was a medic, and in the Rangers, I was called Doc as a medic, and there were some moments. I've got to share this, the 4 years, because the Ranger Battalion is really what concreted my life and my career. Because of that, I was able to become a leader and make 30 years. You know, without that foundation I had in the Ranger Battalion. The two people I mentioned earlier, Captain Garner and Sergeant Bynum, who got me there, yeah. They September 21st, 1981, they died in a plane crash. And I always thanked them, and I for getting me there. They were, that's them right there. Every day I wake up and a reminder of Captain Garner, Sergeant Bynum, and you know they both had 2 kids. They were 34 years old, and plane crash. We actually lost 6 Rangers on that. Then talking about 1983, again a medic, but now I'm a platoon sergeant. Now I'm in charge of medics, and we go to Grenada. I don't know if you know anything about the invasion of Grenada. There was a coup. The president, was shot and killed. Military coup, and then there was 450 supposedly American. There was 450 Americans. I shouldn't have said supposedly, but that were on house arrest down there in Grenada. There's a school, and it just slipped my mind what the name of the school is. St. George's. You can Google it, but that's why we went in. Reagan sent us in, and it was 2 days, and we're jumping in at 500 feet, doing a combat jump and fighting. They fought. But you know, we outnamed. You know, we were the Rangers. You know, we're going to do good, and we did. But the third mission we had was going into Kaliki Barracks, and that's a mission that was very difficult because there was supposed to be 400 Cubans there that were going to defend these barracks. And but before that, we already had liberated or freed the 450 medical students. That was our biggest mission, and we were happy about that. But going into this Kaliki Barracks, anyway, we went in, and the 8 helicopters took off, and 5 came back. So I'm sitting there, and I'm on the 6th to load up, but they asked all medics to go up to the 2nd, and we went up to the 2nd. Anyway, when I got there, I'm not going to go into all the details, but probably about 2 hours later, I found out that I lost a medic, and the Sergeant Kevin Lannon, and I carry his as well. 27 October 1983, 22 years old. His sister lives in Atlantic Beach, so I'm friends with her, and I wanted to share that piece because that was very important and part of my life that made me grow. Once I got out, I was just a medical. I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, medical. That's where all the medics trained. I actually was like a drill sergeant there for 3 years, which was really cool. Then I went up to Alaska, did several things, and I was a medevac 3 years as a medic and first sergeant on that particular job. Then went to Edgewood, Maryland, chemical research, and then went to Korea. Always a medic, always a leader, and each time I was leveling up. When I went to Maryland, I was a first sergeant. I went to Korea, I was a first sergeant. And then they threw me into an operations job, which was really difficult because I wanted to lead soldiers because I love soldiers. But the operations sergeant, or anybody who works in operations, that's very difficult. I think you'd understand what that does. They're the guys that get out there and do all the planning and stuff. Then I went to Columbus, Ohio, and I worked with reserves. I was an active component. They called me AC, and I didn't understand what that meant. AC, they said active component. I did that for 2 years, and I got selected to Sergeant Major's Academy. Went to Sergeant Major's Academy in '97. And then after that, I was promoted in '97 as Command Sergeant Major, and for the next 10 years, that's what I did. I went to different units. I was in hospitals, and my last unit was in Iraq.
So talk to me about some of your best times that you had in service. Really good ones.
Best times? I think it was any time that the best times was when I saw a soldier get promoted or a soldier get an award or just being happy with what they were doing. I'm trying to, I think preparing, I know this sounds a little off, but I think one of the best times because I actually got to see a unit prepare for combat, and that was when I was a battalion sergeant major for 32nd Medical Logistics, and we were going to Iraq. And that was, we all had a little fear, you know, because we're going to war. But the training prior, we had 4 months to train. When I got there, we had 4 months. And it was just, I think that was the best time because I did things that were Ranger type stuff for these kids and for my unit. And so I think that was a best time. But I will tell you, 27 years, the 3 years was not a good time. But the 27 years, it was all good.
So you're glad you actually gave it a second chance?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. God, yes. I was a Christian off and on, but now I'm, you know, back and love the Lord. Always loved the Lord. But yes, I was glad I gave it the second chance. And I think through it all, I'm here, and you know, I turned 69, and I tell you, before I love birthdays. I love your birthday. I'll celebrate it. I'll sing it with you. But when my birthday was, I didn't. It was just another day, kind of for me, introvert type thing. But my 69th was nothing like that. I wanted, you know, I said, wow, you know, I lived 69 years, and all this stuff was poured on me, and all these things happened to me that were great things, you know, loving people and seeing people grow. And
when's your birthday?
mine's August 13th.
Okay.
August 13th.
Just passed not too long ago.
Yeah, 69. And from that point on, everything that I do, everything I want to do is one for him, but to help people, to pay back. And I think I was telling you the other day, I volunteer. In fact, I'm going to Disabled American Veterans right after this in Havelock. And I answer the phones. We got 6 great officers there that take care of people that have disabilities that, you know, that are documented, and they do that kind of stuff. I volunteer for, you saw at the Adventure Park, the petting zoo for kids, and that's there on 24 going towards Cape Carteret. I also at 1 o'clock today, I'm part of the Veterans Committee for the parade on November 8th, which I think you already put out, but that's a big thing. And this is going to be a great one. I mean, it's going to be so cool. The mountain yards, the Vietnam guerrillas that trained with our Special Forces guys are going to be there. And I think that's pretty cool. And a lot of Vietnam veterans. We're celebrating that. But today I'll be working on some pie plates, the markers for the 125 entries we have. But yeah, it's and I was so glad to meet you and Michelle. It's just godsend, I think, and love.
One last question.
Yes.
Talked about what you gave to the military. What did the military give you?
I think respect. I think respect for everybody and everything. I have that. I think the military gave me discipline. You know, if I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to do it, and that's my drive. I may not be the smartest cookie, or what do they say, the knife in the drawer, but you know, if you tell me you want me to do something, I'm going to get it done. But when I say it's a team, and that's another thing the Army taught me, is that you know, you can't do anything by yourself. Together, everybody accomplishes more. Team. There's no I in team. You know, you heard all that, but that is true, and I think that's what I got in the Army. I think I will always want to remember that. But discipline, yeah. And I can recite a code to you that I live by, if you want to hear it. Okay, I'm ready. Are you ready?
We're ready. What is
I'm
it?
an American soldier, or I was an American soldier, a protector of the greatest nation on earth, sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States. I will treat others with dignity and respect, and expect others to do the same. I will honor my country, my unit, and my fellow soldier by living the Army values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. No matter what situation I'm in, I will never do anything for profit, personal safety, or pleasure that will disgrace my unit or my fellow soldier. Lastly, I am proud of my country and its flag, and I want to look back and say that I was proud to serve my country as a soldier. That's what I live by. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was great.